this to make it 28-3. Arthur Blank loving it, up by 25. Toss to White. He's in! What a comeback!
All right, welcome back to the 28-3 podcast. I'm Corey here with Max. Nick is not in this week. He's got work assignments on the other side of the world. But it's hard to believe it, but I believe this episode may be the last one in which we talk about Derek Carr in earnest. News came out over the weekend that QB1, DC4 has decided to hang it up, call it a career. Now, do we believe he's played his last snap in the NFL? Who knows? Signs point to no on that one. But nonetheless, finally, the Saints QB situation can, for the most part, be put to rest. We don't have to have all this Derek Carr mysteriousness hanging over our head. And, it really does seem like a blank slate for the Saints. So, Max, what was your reaction when you heard the news about Derek Carr?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I was much like everybody else that we talked to over the weekend. Everybody was excited. And much like you just said, I'm just excited to never, ever have to say the name Derek Carr again on this podcast after this episode.
Yeah.
Like, this has been just a long time coming. We have beaten this horse past death. You, me, Nick, we've gone over and over and over again. Last year was Carr in relation to Rattler. This year was going to be Carr in relation to Shough and Rattler and possibly Hayner. So I'm just happy that we're done with talking about him. It was a 2-year mistake. We got nothing out of it. He made a lot of money. Let's just go ahead and end it.
Yeah, I mean, It really was a shocker, though, the retirement angle. I mean, I say shocker. I don't know. Maybe it was that we just didn't really think of it as a realistic option in terms of what they might do. I think we all went through the scenarios of they could put him on IR or they could cut him. And, I think we all just wanted to see, like, all right, if he's going to do this whole, I don't know my status, I'm debating it, and maybe it happened during the Giants game. Maybe it happened earlier. We were all just, and given the fact that, he's made no public appearances. I know you and Nick weren't too concerned about whether or not he was in town for the Super Bowl, but just the whole, I don't know, just the taste in everybody's mouth. It wasn't good. It was just clearly like he was checked out, wasn't really showing the buy-in. You heard nothing about it. Usually most teams, the QB1 doesn't want to be replaced by a rookie second-round draft pick, but when there's a veteran on board and you bring in a new QB, you usually hear stories about, oh yeah, the starter reached out to the rookie, or the rookie saying like, yeah, I talked to Derek, or if it was Drew, I talked to Drew, and he's like happy to bring me in.
I'm going to push back on that. Drew, from everything we heard, was notorious. The second they brought somebody in, Garrett Grayson being a prime example. I think they also drafted Sean Canfield before that. Drew's like, no, fuck you. You're going to bring in competition for me to replace me? I'm going to annihilate that person on the field and in the classroom.
Yeah, but I guess
he wasn't calling those guys up like, hey man, welcome to the team. Come follow me around. Come take my job. He was like, you're the enemy. You're out of here in a year or two, and they both were. Yeah.
Well, maybe I could stand corrected on that, but there was just nothing coming out. Anyway, the point is, we were just ready to be done with them, and so I'm happy that this is the way it's shaken out. Definitely didn't think about retirement, and I think we said it in our text message. Really, financially for the Saints, it really is like the best of all worlds for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm going to give I want to go ahead and quote Nick on this. I think we were going back and forth, the three of us, talking about Carr, and there's many takes floating around about his personality, how he doesn't fit this city and all of that, and that's true. But the reality is, like, we're not going to sit here and say Derek Carr is a bad guy. To Nick's credit, Nick summed it up with just one quote. He said Derek Carr is a bad New Orleanian. Now, for a large portion of the fan base, that's the end all be all. And I
Yeah.
say that because there's a large vocal contingent that wanted Jameis to stay around and be the starter. Jameis
Yeah.
showed nothing in his time in New Orleans that gave any indication that he would be a successful starting quarterback on a full-time basis.
Right.
We saw it in Cleveland. He got in Cleveland. He's spraying interceptions all over the field.
Right.
He's a backup again in New York, just like he should be. Fun guy, one of the most unintentionally hilarious people I've seen, God, in the past 10 years,
Oh,
in
yeah.
sports, in any media or any entertainment. Like, the dude is funny. And, he's likable. And we all like Jameis as a person and, as a personality, I should say.
Yep.
But the reality is, like, he was never he can't hold Carr's jockstrap when it comes to
Right.
playing quarterback in the NFL. But there was a large contingent that wanted Jameis at all cost, and that's because he embraced the city.
Yeah.
Carr, on the other hand, did not embrace the city. And look, Nick and I have talked about it. We're not as, I guess, adamant that the quarterback has to do it, but I do understand where people are coming from in the city. We know this. You and I have lived here pretty much our entire lives. Nick as well. This is a very proud city. We've all bought into it. We're true New Orleanians to the core. Chances of us living anywhere else, pretty slim.
Yeah. Something.
Right. But it's hard to expect someone who comes from California or wherever the hell Carr's from to come here and just immediately buy into it. We talked about how there's a lot of players, long-term players on this team, like the second they retire, they head off to whatever their home city was or whatever their favorite adopted city is. Like, I'll use Drew Brees as a prime example. We love Brees, and Brees played the game. He knew the optics were important. I remember there was a time he walked home from practice. I think when they did practice at
Tulane.
the Tulane Stadium, he understood the optics of it. Like Alvin Kamara, he's walked home from the Superdome to his condo. I think he was in the quarter. They understand the optics of it. Carr didn't. Now, if Carr would have performed up to a Drew Brees level, no one would have given a shit.
Yeah, and that was part of my response to that is that Carr either didn't get it or he perfectly got it and didn't give a shit. And I think that's what rubs people the wrong way, because it's kind of like, how can you not get it? I mean, if you look up anything of what it was like when Brees was here, I mean, hell, even going back to Aaron Brooks, like, you don't have to do much research to realize how a city reacts when a certain player buys in. And, I'll extrapolate on that a little bit, but you said it with the level of play. This is why, if nothing else, this is why this team is desperate to just have a top level quarterback play. Not saying it's got to be top 5, but having a QB that can somehow find a way to be top 10 again in that range, because I saw you just texted me the Pels got the 7th pick in the lottery. That sucks.
I mean, the only thing that would have drummed up my interest in watching the Pels would have been if they got the first pick and what's his name, Cooper Flag. But I don't give a shit.
The worst they could have done was 8, so that's not good. Anyway,
typical Pels.
And they had Zion representing the team at the podium for the pick, so now everyone's be like, more evidence that Zion's cursed. He gets up there and doesn't even get a good pick. And anyway, but like you've said a lot,
that's another topic for another day.
This isn't a Pels podcast. But speaking of buying in, like, the thing is, that's why, moving on from Carr is a great thing, because it was patently obvious that even on his best day with us, maybe Nick would disagree, but I don't think he's cracking the top 10 barrier in the league. Maybe if everybody still stays healthy, it's possible. But when Brees was here, he did both. He was all world, all everything, should have been MVP multiple times, and also embraced the city, lived in the middle of the city. But when you have this void of quality quarterback play, the only thing the fans have to do, whether it's rational or not, is just look to the QB as a person. And so this whole comparison, or this whole idea that let's play Jameis without even pointing to any football reason for Jameis, or let's play Rattler, while having seen exactly who Rattler was, albeit with like a depleted supporting cast, no one would be saying this stuff if any of them were playing at a top 10 QB level. And so this void of quality QB play allows for this popularity contest to happen within our QB room. And to me, like, that was the most frustrating thing about Carr. I mean, yeah, Carr pissed me off with the way he talked, the things he said sometimes, just the way he was. It was clear he was, fake, trying to make up answers on the fly, pointing the
Whoa, I'm
finger.
not. Hold on, no. I don't think he's. I'm gonna push back here. I don't think he's fake at all. I think he was
I
true
mean,
to himself the entire time. Where this was a job where he literally punched in, went and played the game, went to practice, punched out, and that was it. He wasn't doing any of the extra stuff that Drew Brees was doing.
No, he wasn't doing the extra stuff. But I think when he's up at the podium and he's saying, he gave the political speak answers. And yeah, a lot of these guys give coach speak answers.
Yeah, but that's most quarterbacks, though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Just to me, my impression of the way Carr spoke to the fans, it was like, I don't think he respected. I'm not saying that we're all football gurus and X's and O's guys as Saints fans, but like, it was like he thought we were stupid at times. I thought, when he's sitting there and like Jesse Bates on the pick six and he's like, oh, he wasn't supposed to be there. It's like, dude, just say you fucked up, things like that,
No, I agree with you that he should have taken accountability on that exact play because that interview was atrocious. No, I agree with you 1,000%.
Maybe it was a little bit better last year, but
I'm gonna push back. I don't think it had anything to do with his opinion of the fans. I just don't think he cares about what the fans think.
Well, and to me, I know our, philosophy, and maybe more so you and Nick. I mean, I share it. Look, if the guy's behind center and we're winning games, we just want to win. We just want to see our team be successful. That's valid. Like, I'm not really knocking that at all. But at the same time, we do give a shit about our city. This team is interwoven into the fabric of our city. I mean, especially after Katrina, especially, the rebirth game, Steve Gleason, that still persists, like all these different things. And so if as a quarterback, it's taught to you your whole life, going back to high school, that you are the leader of the football team, whether you like it or not, as the QB. Yes, you're one of 22 different players on the field, but at the end of the day, people are going to look at you. People are going to look at you when you're on the field. People are going to look at you when you're off the field. So if you come in knowing all of that and know what the city of New Orleans is in terms of culture, in terms of passion, pride, and know the significance of this team to that passion, culture, pride.
He obviously did no research.
Well, then he doesn't look up anything, because it's patently obvious if you take even the surface level chance of looking up what do the New Orleans Saints mean to the city of New Orleans? Just Google it, and it's not that hard to figure it out. So to me, I still didn't like, and in the postmortem of this whole thing, that he either was oblivious to it, didn't want to know, or he knew but didn't care, or wasn't willing to go through the effort to just be a guy who the city could embrace more. So I'm glad that part's all done.
Yeah,
because that's definitely a thing. Does it result in wins and losses if you're an all-world QB? No, but he was not an all-world QB. And he decided not to do the whole embrace New Orleans thing. And so good riddance to that.
Again, he's not looking at it. He obviously did not do. Okay, there's two different sides to the coin. There's the Derek Carr. We'll say he's over on the left. There's the Tyler Shough over on the right. Because I think it is indisputable that Tyler Shough has played the game perfectly since the second he got drafted.
Yeah,
he said all the right things. When he went to Drago's for his first meal, he got a damn flat tire in a pothole and made a joke about it. He's playing the right music in his Instagram post.
And look, even if
the
he didn't
dude
get
has
a
done,
flat tire,
the dude literally, it's like his agent said, okay, here's the 2 years that Derek Carr was in New Orleans. Here's the basic synopsis of it. You do the exact opposite. Yeah. So we're seeing the exact opposite play out right now with Shough in terms of embracing the city. Like, Rattler didn't do anything embracing the city. Hayner didn't do anything. Shough is the one who literally, he can tell he's very well coached on what to do and what to say. Yeah. Now, going back to what I was saying about Carr, Carr was DA's boy. And we could tell in that first year here, DA always erred on the side of Carr. Whenever there was a dispute with Carr and another player, it was always like, well, the quarterback's got to do this, he's got to do that. He's doing what I want him to. He defended him at any chance. Yeah. Now, I think literally Carr was like, okay, I'm going to go here. I got my coach who believes in me. I'm going to collect a fat paycheck. And basically, I give a shit about what my family thinks. And obviously, he's real big into his faith. Those are the two things Carr cares about. He does not give a fuck about what you think, what I think, what anybody on Twitter or any other social media thinks. He didn't. And honestly, most players probably don't, if we're being honest. Most players do think the fans are idiots because, for the most part, we are. Just
Yeah,
look at,
compared
well, I mean,
to their coaches, compared to guys who actually get paid to be playing or coaching football or
well, of course.
analyzing it. Yeah, of course.
Let me pose this scenario for you. Like, you have a law degree. You're a practicing attorney.
Mhm.
Like, if I got on Reddit and started running my mouth about, like, oh man, I saw Corey walk into courthouse. He did this. I would have done this. He doesn't know what he's doing. He should be doing this. You literally would look at me and be like, this is a fucking moron. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Why the hell should I care about what he thinks? And honestly, you would be right. And so when you look at Carr, who is inarguably one of the 32 best quarterbacks in the world, because he is, as of right now, obviously not right now with the arm injury, but last season he was one of the 32 best quarterbacks in the world. Like, out of the entire world, people who play quarterback, he's one of the 32 best last year. Why is he going to give a fuck what Joe Blow, who's sitting on his couch, who's never freaking done anything athletically in their life, gives a fuck about what he's saying, what he's done?
I'm not saying he should give a fuck about individual opinions, because it doesn't matter what city you're in. Fans are you're always gonna have some fans that don't like what you did. I mean, unless you're like Patrick Mahomes and can do no wrong, or Breeze at a certain time. But even Breeze had his critics at points during.
Dude, our whole fan base was yelling about, oh, he can't throw
the
deep
noodle
anymore.
Right.
We got to put Jameis in. Like, how stupid does that sound?
Right. So I'm not saying he should be some kind of like, hey fans, I'm sorry guys, or whatever. No, I'm not saying he should address the individual opinions, but it just if you have that role, like you said, punch in, punch out for a job, right? Like, any job comes with a little bit more than obviously what's in your job description. There's
so you've given 110% in every job you've ever had.
I mean,
I'm gonna be honest and say I haven't. There's been plenty of jobs where I've coasted through it. I'm like, I'm collecting a paycheck.
I mean,
now look, I do agree with you.
It's an important position.
It is, and if you are a consummate professional and you are prepared in every aspect of your professional life and probably personal life as well, and you have one of these most sought after jobs in the world, which is starting quarterback in the NFL. It is your duty to do your due diligence wherever you get drafted, like Shough has done. I'm using Shough as the example here because Shough obviously looked into it, talked to his agent, and said, what do I need to do? What's the playbook to just get into good graces? He's probably going to post from fucking Bromart next week. He's going to post from, any I mean, what's coming up next? What's next in the city? We just got through Jazz
It's about to slow down, but about to hit that. I mean, look, he'll probably
go to Hanson's this weekend.
If he goes to Greek Fest, then it's over.
Yeah, exactly. He is the most likable quarterback we have had on the team. God, I mean, easily since Breeze.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Just from just the playbook of embracing the city and just playing the game correctly.
Obviously, is one that's in there too.
Yeah, but Jameis didn't do that right away because remember, he sat on the bench that first year with Breeze.
Yeah, it took him a minute. Yeah,
it took him a minute. Shough from the get-go, got drafted, and all of a sudden he knew it. He's like, "This is my opportunity. I'm all in. Let's go."
And here's another pretty big difference. I mean, Shuck's doing everything right. I wouldn't say he there's nothing genuine about what he's doing, even if it is 100% coaching. It's coming across as genuine. But the biggest difference with Shough and Carr, and whether or not Carr did it right or how he did it wrong, the difference is that we brought in Carr with the big fat paycheck, and Shough is trying to earn the big fat paycheck. So, and also coming from college, we're the first pro team he's played for, so he's got nothing but reason to be excited, embrace the town he's going to. He's been all over the map.
Yeah, but my point is, not everybody does that. Not everybody does that.
Right. So kudos to him for doing it. I think there's different motivations, I think. And I can see if you want to give, if people talk about Carr and if I'm one who wishes he did a little bit more, I'm not saying that I don't think it would have been reasonable to be like, man, like Breeze lived in the city. Where the hell Carr lived? Like Carr lived, he kept a house in California and for all we know, he lived by Metairie Country Club or whatever. He should have been like you can't say the guy's X, Y, and Z for not deciding to live with his family in a certain part of town. Like, I'm not going to go that far. I'm not going to knock him for not being at every second line like Jameis is, but the little things that we have come to expect. And yeah, we were absolutely spoiled by Breeze in this respect, but like the little things of, are you contributing to the local economy? Are you going to Domalices for a po' boy? Like, just do it once, just do it once a year. Or are you?
Boy, I haven't been to Domalices in 20 years.
I know, but you're not the quarterback of the Saints, right? Or like,
but
so it's like you don't have eyes on you. I mean, yeah, you have eyes on you on certain Sundays when you dress up as Darth Saint, but like a little bit different. So
yeah,
it's just like it's much grander scale. Obviously, this is a sliding scale, but like if you look at politics and you look at the president, eyes are on him. Everyone wants to know his every move. Wants to know what companies he's supporting. Wants to know what kind of everybody wants right now. They want to know what kind of plane he's in, and they want to know that because he's the most important person in the United States government. Derek Carr is the most important person on the New Orleans Saints football team as a player. So
not anymore.
Not anymore. Was I should use was. So you just have to know that, and there's no way he didn't know that. And look, if you don't care, you don't care. And I don't think he didn't give effort at his job. When you talk about 110% effort, I think I will say. There's nothing to say that when he went into the doors of airline that he wasn't giving whatever he could give. But I just think when the book is written on the Derek Carr era of New Orleans, it wouldn't have taken much, but it was the details in terms of being a New Orleans Saint QB that are going to be the undoing of any positives.
No, definitely. And I agree with what you just said. And we can call it the Derek Carr era. Because that's what it was.
Yeah.
It was a 2-year error.
Yeah.
But look, again, I'm just going to circle back and then we can move on to other topics. But I'll circle back and say performance is king. And the reason I say this, I'm going to use Cam Jordan as an example, and I can also use Drew Brees as an example. When they were at their prime, everybody loves them. When they're Pro Bowl, All Pro, whatever it is. The tail end of Drew Brees' career, when we're still making playoffs year after year, getting screwed by the NFL with no call and all that stuff. Brees, the arm strength had declined. And what did you just see all over social media? Brees can't throw deep anymore, put Jameis in. Utter stupidity. With Cam, Cam's dropped off to, 2, 3, 4 sacks a season the last 2 years. And as much as he does for the community, and we know Cam does more for the community than any player on the roster right now. He was up for Man of the Year and should have won it. But there are the majority of the people on social media and any of the message boards, what do they say? Cam's washed. He needs to retire. He needs to be a defensive tackle. He needs to retire. He needs to be off the team. We need to save salary cap. He needs to do the right thing. He needs to play for the minimum. This is what I'm talking about. It's like this city, and it's every city and every team, but we are so hypercritical of everything these guys do. It's all about performance. It doesn't matter what you do off the field if you perform on the field. And that's always been my point and Nick's point with this. If Carr were coming out and he was an all-pro and he literally got to every press conference and flipped us off and said, the fans are idiots, fuck them, we still wouldn't care. We'd be like, oh, man, that dude's got swag. Look at that. He's all-pro.
We'd say,
but that's all that matters.
We'd say he's an asshole, but he's our asshole.
It's like Sean Payton. Sean Payton was an asshole, but he was our asshole.
Yeah.
C.J. Gardner-Johnson, when he was he was up to his shenanigans. He was an asshole, but he was our asshole. Michael Thomas. The list goes on and on and on. If you perform, you get a longer rope, a longer leash with your antics and how you I guess and present yourself off the field.
Yeah, and Shough ends up being the starter, and people don't expect him to have. I don't think people expect him to have a great rookie season. He's a rookie QB, but if he's making bonehead plays, just looks god awful, then it's going to be, oh, this dude's spending too much time at Drago's. This dude needs to, it's going to be the reverse.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah, man. Look, if Shuck sucks on the field, it doesn't matter if he shops at Bromard and goes
yeah,
to Damalis every day, and then goes to Bromard and fucking Drago's and all these other places. If he goes to those places every day, it doesn't matter if he sucks. Because,
right.
like you said, people are going to be like, "Oh, he's spending too much time in the community
Yeah,
doing this and that and that. He needs to study the playbook more."
yeah,
So
yeah.
we're,
So,
we're impossible to please. We're impossible to please.
yeah,
It's only gonna. We only are satisfied. Okay, there's a good portion of this fan base that is never going to be satisfied because it's all about being right in
yeah,
in their viewpoints. But I will be happy no matter what the people do if we get a title. I don't give a shit what the players are doing. They can be back in
yeah.
their,
I mean,
they can be living in New York and Idaho and anywhere else. I don't care. Give me a
yeah,
title.
Super Bowl trumps everything.
Trumps everything.
One thing though, I guess before we move off of Carr, is looking at it as besides like the off the field, on the field, good dude, bad dude. When I had a moment of thinking, wow, okay, so retiring, we said is the best case scenario financially for us. Like saves us. The cap doesn't change much for this year, but it's 30 million that doesn't go against our books next year, and it's essentially when you look at it, linearly or black and white of it, it's basically him giving up $30 million of salary in total. And so I think that kind of made my mind initially go to like, all right, well, I've said all this shit about how I don't like him as a Saints QB. I know he's like, man of faith and he's a great family guy. And so I'm not going to, got no knocks against him as a dad and all that stuff. But I'm like, this dude pisses me off, but he just gave our team $30 million back. And then
Yep.
I was like, I just don't know if that makes sense, because like, why would he, did he really voluntarily just do that? Because it just struck me as he's the same guy that's like, no, I'm not taking a pay cut.
It doesn't pass the smell test.
It didn't pass the smell test. And then as I was thinking that, I'm like, it just seems like you can't really by the rules or put it out there. Like Loomis could never go up to any on a press conference and say, yeah, we went up to Derek and asked him to retire because it was made more sense for us. Like he's never going to say that. But I'm kind of like, is that kind of what happened? And then I saw the Saints statement came out first about Carr on the retirement. So I guess this was on Saturday. And I'll read it out here because it just struck me when I read the statement. I'm like, wait, this reminds me of how statements are written and how people talk when a legal settlement is taking place. And so I'm like, I threw it out there in my mind, or maybe we talked about it, but if the Saints had really done any homework and determined that his injury or whatever's causing him to have to go under surgery was not a football related injury per the contract, or was not something that he could say happened on the field, well, then the Saints are in a position to try to get that money back with a grievance. And then I read the Saints statement that Derek Carr has announced his retirement. In late March, while ramping up his preparation for the 2025 season, Derek experienced pain in his right shoulder. It was the first time throwing a football at a significant volume since recovering. Not throwing a football at all, but significant volume since recovering from both a concussion and left hand injury sustained December 8th, 2024. Derek immediately contacted Saints medical team. Eventually, all medical scans determined objectively that Derek Carr sustained a labral tear and also had significant degenerative damages to his rotator cuff. Since that time, Derek, his representation, Saints medical team, and outside experts have worked together to determine the best path forward. So it's like just the legalese in this tweet from the Saints. It is the longest tweet I've seen the Saints put out in a while. And it came out, of course, before, at least as I saw it, before Derek Carr's statement. So to me, it just smacks 100% of when their discussions are in talks, they're in settlement talks. Derek doesn't want to play for the Saints, but he wants all of his money. The Saints are fine with him not playing for him, but they don't want to pay him everything if he's not going to be playing for him. And they probably very candidly said, like, you were throwing a football perfectly fine up until you injured your left wrist. Okay, so, and then, you've done all this stuff in the offseason, you've traveled the world, and when push comes to shove, when you're about to have to report to the facility, now this is coming out that you've got some shoulder issue. We're not okay with that. we need to go to you, Derek, and, we're just going to let you know, unless you can show us something better, we're going to be filing a grievance. And no one's going to look good in this situation, especially you. Like, this is shit that 30 for 30s get written about. A guy who wants off, and especially if you combine this with how his Raiders tenure ended, which was not good, so it struck me as the Carr camp saying, all right, you know what? We already got our guaranteed money for this year. If I do a retirement, it doesn't have the stigma of me being released or cut. And then you don't have to do the grievance and don't have to allege that I had any kind of dishonesty, which if doesn't even matter if it was proven or not proven. If the court of public opinion says one thing or certain GMs believe another thing, Carr's not playing at all again if people think that you can't trust the dude or if he doesn't have credibility. So this allows him to retire, sit out a year, go back. And, it just, the sides got what they wanted. But I don't think that this is Derek Carr coming and saying, yeah, sure, he did some soul searching, whatever, but I don't think he's coming in and saying, here you go, Saints, here's $30 million. I didn't need it anyway. Like I'd be highly suspicious if that's what happened.
Yeah, and look, I didn't want to interrupt you. It was like talking to the pitcher in the middle of a no-hitter. You were cooking there. But
Yeah.
no, everything you said right there, I agree with 100%. It doesn't pass the smell test. I don't think anything's going to come out in the near future. It feels like you said, communication was had, and they mutually agreed that this was going to be the most beneficial for everybody. Saints get their salary cap space back next year. Carr gets to have the optics are a little bit better on Carr. I really think you're going to see him sit this year out, and I think he makes a comeback in 2026. It just feels like the shoulder. He's going to go to church all off season, and by the grace of God, the shoulder is going to be healed, and he's ready to come back. And at that point, the Saints will have they will have his rights. So maybe you get, I don't know, a 5th or a 6th round pick from whoever wants to sign him. But it just feels like I just can't shake the feeling that Carr will be back in 2026. But you nailed all my thoughts on it. It's just something. It seems like something. And look, to Loomis's credit, sometimes he gets lucky, and it's like with Reuben Foster.
Yeah.
Look, remember with Reuben Foster, he got saved from himself.
He's been saved from himself multiple times. So it's not to say that this isn't me necessarily throwing all praise on Mickey. I mean, I think this situation got beyond Mickey. I think this situation went to the lawyers and the PR team.
I agree with that.
Like, it's like, here's the situation, like, hey, Saints legal team or hey, Saints outside counsel, if we're going to gear up, I guarantee there's a room of lawyers somewhere in town who,
I'm shocked you're not there. Come on, what's going on?
Well, they usually use Stone Pigman as outside counsel, different firm.
There we go.
or Vicky Newmeyer, the in-house counsel was. Either way, it's they had to have done an exploratory committee or work or research on, all right, what is it going to look like if we fire up a grievance process to get money back from Carr because he had a non-football related injury and we paid him based on the injury guarantee. Would not be shocked if that research wasn't done because you only negotiate from a place of leverage, or at least that's what the good negotiators do. I'm not saying we're always the best at negotiating, but if you don't know how a grievance would come out, and if you're Mickey or if you're the Saints team, you're not going to go to Carr's camp and say, hey, we're going to file a grievance or we're going to ask for that money back because we don't think it was football related. You're not going to make that assumption or that assertion if you don't know how that's going to play out based on prior cases. So, and look, we have heard nothing like in certified or not even rumors, not even, sources, not sources saying that that's what happened. But if I'm going to make that suspicion, that guess that that's what happened, the Saints wouldn't have, gone at Carr with that kind of accusation or assertion if they didn't have something to stand on, hadn't already done the work to determine what their options were in that scenario. And so, when you heard both sides saying, we're talking to Derek, Derek's saying, I'm talking to the Saints, I had visits scheduled. It's like, well, yeah, that's what you do when you're trying to settle a legal claim. You keep talking, you keep going back and forth, you meet, you mediate, you do all these different things. And then at the end, you come up with a solution that doesn't always benefit both sides equally, but sometimes it does. And it doesn't result in the finality of a trial. That's what would have happened if the Saints had to go after money saying, he owes us $30 million.
Yeah.
So
No,
that seems like a more likely scenario to me, as complicated as it is, than him just coming to the soul-searching, heart-based decision of, I'm just going to talk to my wife, and she thought it was best for me to give $30 million back.
Yeah, that's
not many wives are going to tell their husbands to do that.
Yeah, and it's we got to give Loomis a little bit of credit. I think all of us are unanimous in that we think it's time for him to step down, and let somebody else take control. But the reality is, I mean, he has done some good things, and I know social media. Every time something bad happens with the Saints, oh, it's Loomis. Loomis did this. He messed this up. It's his fault. Whereas if something good happens for the Saints, oh, Kai Harley, he did this. Kai Harley that. Or maybe Jeff Ireland. And it's social media, man. It's like Twitter is a fucking cesspool. Like people literally pick and choose their spots, and it's to try to prove their narrative on just about every situation. And there's just an abundance of people, man. They're not fans. They don't give a shit if the Saints win or lose. They just want to be right about whatever story they fabricated in their head.
There's a lot
of it's just pull for the team, dude. It's like if you're going to be a fan, root for the team.
There's a lot more.
If you just want to, bag on people and just say, "Oh, this person sucks," that your organization's incompetent. I'm correct. Don't be a fan. Just be go be an analyst somewhere.
Because the two questions that come into my mind when I see that kind of stuff online, it's like, well, what do you do when we win? Right? Like, what do you do when that if it should happen that we have a season more reminiscent of 2018 in the near future? What do you do then? The same team that you were saying is incompetent, can't operate. Why are we not like other teams? What do you do? You're happy. You're going to be shouting from the rooftops, who dat this, who dat that. But how did we get to this place if everybody sucks?
Right.
Or
See,
then
the answer is winning. Like the Saints have to win, and that shuts everybody up.
Right. Or it makes them change their tune, and it's kind of like, where were you when the rest of us were saying, hey, do we like this? No. Look, we've been critical of Mickey several times.
Absolutely.
We've said he's at the end of his rope and all that stuff, but it's like, but we'll finish every thought with like, but hopefully they figure it out, or we got what we got. And it kind of makes me wonder. I'm like, what are we going to find a way to be negative about now that Carr's gone? Are we just going to is it going to very simply, is Saints Twitter going to turn into, well, if Rattler's not getting as many reps, then, he's being wronged? Because like, it's like, you're going to see what you want to see out of this rookie mini camp and out of Saints training camp. Even if you want to see Rattler succeed and you're watching him and Shough play, look, I think from what I've seen, Shough has a chance to very well, the best chance to become the number one guy. But I don't think it's going to be head and shoulders above, to the amateur football eye. So if you're looking at these preseason games and videos that come out of training camp saying, I want it to be Rattler, then you're going to say Rattler look better. If you want it to be Shough, you're going to say Shough look better.
I'll be honest with you.
What we're about to enter into.
I don't care who it is. If Hainer decides to ball out and be the best one, hell yeah. How about Deckers? If Deckers somehow comes from junior college obscurity and comes out and he looks the best out of all four quarterbacks that are in training camp, fuck yeah. Then I will throw all the support to him. But it's like I'm not going into it saying like, oh, it has to be this person. No, not at all. I don't care who it is. There's four contenders. Probably only three are real contenders. Deckers looks like a practice squad, developmental guy. Yeah. So you're looking at three main contenders. And, look at it last year. Like, Hainer got bagged on for his one half of the game he started, and no one gave him the benefit of the doubt of, oh, the offensive line injuries, oh, the wide receiver skill position injuries. No one gave him any of that. You know
Yeah.
why? Because it didn't fit the narrative. So, like you said, people are going to have the horse in the race that they predetermined that this is my guy. I'm throwing all my support. I'm here to tell you, I don't give a fuck who it is. Just whoever it is, come out and perform, come out and win some games, and I will throw 1,000% of my support towards you.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, if I were going to handicap it, you gotta give Shough the lead.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, let's look at it from a size standpoint. Deckers is 6'2", 6'3". He looked like a midget next to Shough in the rookie minicamp highlights we saw. They were the only two quarterbacks there. If Deckers is 6'2 and a half, 6'3", and he looks short, wait till we get the two midgets next to Shough.
Well, even
because
those
Rattler's barely 6 feet.
Yeah.
Hayner's barely 6 feet.
Yeah.
They're going to look like toddlers next to him. And then
Shough's
Shuck's faster than both of them.
I was going to say he's the fastest guy on the roster. Maybe he's not faster than Deckers. I don't know, but
Deckers has got some speed. But
but out of the three, yeah, Shuck's he's the biggest, tallest, fastest, and you know, definitely a stronger arm than Hayner.
It's debatable with Rattler.
Yeah, like
I think Rattler has sick arm talent.
Yeah,
sick.
If Rattler and Shough threw on a radar gun, they're like 1 or 2 miles an hour apart. So big deal. They're both strong and
it's 1A, 1B, and I don't know who is who.
They can both whip it. But you know, yeah. So whoever, look, Kellen Moore's first year head coach. Shough is the only, or maybe besides Deckers, Shough is the only QB that he has selected. He is the first QB that Kellen Moore has decided this is a QB that I like, you know, as a head coach. So there's a lot of things, you know, there's a lot of things already pointing towards Shough having the advantage. I think if he's not the starter, I think there's a small chance it's because, you know, Rattler came out. I'm saying Rattler because I just think he's better than Hayner. But if Shough isn't the starter,
more talented.
I think the chance that it's because Rattler came out and had this like all world, like undeniable training camp and preseason, that's a pretty small chance. So in reality, I think Rattler improves. I think he looks better. I think he has to be.
I would hope he would improve. Yeah, he has to be better. I mean, it can't be worse.
So I think if you don't see Shough, if you just don't see Shough as the starter, then to me that would be a bit of a disappointment because that means he has not lived up to what we didn't draft him because we thought he wasn't as good as Rattler, right? We drafted him thinking he's better than anybody we already have in that room. So if he can't beat out the two guys that are there, I mean, sure, there's some people that could say, well, maybe he needs another year, but you drafted him to beat those two guys out now. And so if it's ever announced that he's not the week one starter, then that's a disappointment. It means he hasn't lived up to
let me say this.
What they did.
It doesn't matter if it's Shough, Rattler, or Hayner. Whoever it is, they have this year. Because this team doesn't look like it's a world beater. You know, the possibility of us having a top 10 pick in 2026, as of right now, looks pretty high. You know, if you look at the Vegas odds, the Saints are towards the bottom as far as win projections. So, you know, we touched on it a couple of weeks ago when we did the last episode. Whoever wins this starting job, they have this year to show enough flashes that says this team that tells Kellen Moore, don't draft a quarterback in the top 10. Next year's class looks better. You're looking at multiple guys, multiple top 10 quarterback candidates. It doesn't matter if it's Shough. It doesn't matter if it's Rattler. They have to perform this year. Because if they don't, the likelihood of the Saints selecting, whether it's Sellers out of South Carolina, Nussmeier out of LSU, Klubnik from Clemson, or whoever else pops up, the likelihood of them picking one of them is pretty damn high. So they have a 1-year audition.
Yeah.
Now, what you want, you know, the best case scenario is you see what the Patriots saw out of Drake May. You know, Drake May, the Patriots had the second pick in the draft this year. After selecting Drake May with the third pick last year, Drake May showed multiple flashes. Like, if I were a New England Patriots fan and I watched Drake May all of last year, I would feel damn good about him and the quarterback position going forward. So
Yeah.
what needs to happen for us is either Shough, Rattler, or Haener, one of these three, or hell, even Deckers, one of these four, needs to give us the same feeling that Drake May gave Patriots fans and coaches.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because no one is questioning whether
Well,
Drake May is the future. They traded Milton,
right.
who flashed in that last game of the season last year. They traded
And
him to the Cowboys, which tells you all you need to know. They
yeah.
know that Drake May is the undisputed franchise quarterback going forward.
Well,
So
and if
we need
anything,
someone to step up this year in 2025 and just stake their claim and say, hey, look, the defense may be trash and it may be giving up 40 points a game, but I scored 35 points a game. You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like, they got to show it.
Yep. Yep.
But,
And I think it, like you said, the fact that it has to be this year, they're on an even shorter leash than Drake May or Bryce Young would be. I mean, May not the number one overall pick, Bryce was, but Bryce, you couldn't have had a worse year than he had his rookie season, and getting benched and all that stuff. But they weren't kicking him to the curb because they invested the number one overall pick in him. If he was the 40th overall pick,
he would be gone.
He's gone. Like, he would have been
gone.
benched and then released. They wouldn't have been hang around and maybe if Andy doesn't do too well, we'll put you back in there. So yeah, not now. The only thing is, unless we pick up a veteran, there is no veteran to come in and give Shough a spell. It's going to be if he gets named the starter, or if Rattler gets named the starter first, and then you bring in Shough later. Like, you're replacing bad with unproven versus what the Panthers said. So, but the point is, I agree with you. It's like they do have this year, and I think a lot of people are like, well, 40 is that's still a high pick to invest. Well, yeah, it's a high pick, but if he's given a good chance and a chance where most of the roster's healthy, where it isn't completely annihilated, yeah, I mean, they're gonna, and they see a guy they think is better next year, and they got a pick to go get him. Yeah, they're within the rights to go get him. Absolutely.
Yeah, look, the 40th pick in the draft, while, you, me and Nick all agreed that we would have preferred they go in a different direction than going quarterback there. I understand why they did it.
Yeah.
Because it's until you have a quarterback, you got to keep taking swings. Because if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have anything. You're not winning anything.
Yeah.
And Shuck's talent, the talent is there. And obviously the maturity level is there. Like, just from everything he's said and done since he's been drafted, very impressive. The talent, I mean, the guy is, he's top half of the league in quarterback talent.
There's things that he has to work on, or like what you hope can be coached out of him, which is the pocket anxiety, if you will, the tendency to
well, look, here's the deal, though.
Throw it off the back foot.
I like that he doesn't take sacks.
Because
Rattler is a human sack machine. Like, he just takes sacks out of everything. He did it in college. He's done it in the NFL. Like, that is the hardest thing to coach out of somebody, from what I've seen. So with Shough, we know he already got. He has the Derek Carr. Like, Carr didn't take sacks. He just didn't. And Shough kind of has that same thing going on. You just got to hope that Kellen Moore can coach Shough out of any bad habits he has, and just get him on the right track with the other stuff. And maybe, I guess Carr, you're not coaching Carr up. He's 33, 34 years old. He is what he is.
There's several ways 25. To avoid sacks.
You can still, you can coach Shough up, and you can kind of get rid of some of the bad things if he takes to it. So a lot more upside. Nothing Rattler did last year inspires any confidence. Same thing for Haener. Nothing that he did inspires any confidence. No. Just from a talent standpoint, Rattler is supremely talented, especially in relation to Haener. If Haener doesn't come out swinging, I'd honestly keep Deckers around and just keep him as a third guy and just develop him. But, the other thing to look at is this is a brand new system for everybody. Jake Haener was drafted by, he was what, 2 years ago. Rattler was last year. They've only been in Kellen Moore's system for the last couple of weeks, and they really haven't had much practice time with it either. So they're all pretty much on equal footing.
Yeah.
So it's not like, if this was still Clint Kubiak's system, I would probably say Rattler had the inside track at starting. But given that this is a brand new system and the head coach obviously handpicked Shough, the smart money's on Shough. It would be an upset if he's not the starter.
I agree. And that's why I say if he doesn't become the starter, to me, it's like, we keep talking about the schedule of this reset, this invisible, untalked about, Mickey refuses to call it anything, but it's a reset. We can use the word rebuild if we want to get really scary, but we keep talking about the schedule of it, the timing of it. If Carr had stuck around another year, it would have essentially delayed the reset longer, because even if he's not playing, he's still there and you're still on schedule to pay him out. Him retiring kind of ups the schedule. It makes the blank slate arrive at our doorstep a whole year sooner, and we save some money the following year for it. And so to me, if Shough can't beat out Rattler and Haener, who are the guys picked by the last regime, then to me it slows down that reset schedule. If he shows,
no, because if he doesn't beat him out and you lose, you go 3-14, you got a top 5 pick. Go get the quarterback.
Right, but then your reset is pushed out another year. If he beats them
out, who cares?
out,
the cap's fine at that point. Who cares?
No. Well, it's not about it's not about who cares.
Set you back at all. No, it doesn't set you back at all.
But is the schedule not expedited if Shough beats them out?
Well, look,
and then succeeds.
Best case scenario.
Reset is pushed up in terms of time.
The best case scenario is Shough hits.
Yeah.
If Shough hits, the Saints they hit a home run and everything is. Well, the whole they're on a gravy train with biscuit wheels.
Well,
but here's the deal:
it's a reset.
But if Shough flames out, it doesn't hurt us, because they're not going to win any games if he's the starter and he flames out. They're going to have a top 5 pick.
Well,
you can go get one of the quarterbacks, and then the clock resets.
But that's where I'm differing with you, because look, we're hitting the reset button because we want to win. Like, we're not hitting the reset button just
they're not winning it. They're not winning this year.
I'm not saying they're winning this year, but we would all agree, I think, that we want to see this team win, get back to a winning culture, winning games, a playoff contender sooner rather than later. Right?
Obviously. Come on, obviously.
Right. So if Shough can't beat out Rattler and Haener, you can't even get to the beginning of the fastest option to win games sooner than later. The fastest way to win games sooner than later is with Shough succeeding, becoming the guy who's going to lead us to playoffs year in and year out. That would be the fastest avenue to having the reset be successful. If he flames out while it's a win,
but it doesn't hurt you.
Well, it hurts you because you
wasted the 40th pick. Big deal. You'll get a top 10 pick and get the guy next year.
That's by definition.
You got two swings at the you got multiple swings right here. You took this is a home run swing here. They're swinging for the fences with the 40th pick. If it hits, it's an absolute home run. Loomis looks like a genius. Ireland looks like a genius. Kellen Moore looks like a genius. If Shough hits. If they miss, then it's okay. He was a second-round pick. The odds were stacked against him anyway. Because if you're betting money, you're betting on him. Like Nick said, you're betting on him not succeeding. And at which point, if he doesn't succeed, it's no different than them just playing Carr for this year and having a top 10 pick like we just did this year, or Rattler even, and getting a top 5 pick, and you just get a swing at a quote-unquote franchise top 5 pick.
If you're looking at it from the perspective of, like kind of like a house money analogy, then I can maybe see that where,
that's what it's more house money.
If we're playing with house money because Carr's gone, and we got more space next year, and if we suck and have a better pick anyway, that's one thing. But in terms of what the organization wants to do and how quickly we can get back on the winning track, I'm not saying that Shough having a bad year, bad enough to where we were going to draft another QB the following year. I'm not saying that would be fatal. I'm not saying fatal, but it is. No, I'm not saying that.
It's absolutely not. Yeah,
I'm saying it's a hurt. It's not a positive.
I don't think it hurts at all.
It is a negative, but it's not fatal. It's fine. You can survive it. It's not a fatal blow. You can survive it.
No,
but it's not a good thing.
It's not a good thing, but it's not catastrophic by any means.
That's what I'm saying. This is house money. That's what I'm saying.
Then it's amazing.
We might be splitting hairs.
Who cares? It's a second-round pick.
Well, I think we should care about a second-round pick.
We should, but look at all the second-round picks that have busted out over the past 10 years.
That doesn't mean it makes it better when the next one busts out.
No, but I'm telling you, it is a lottery ticket. So this is why I said this in the pre-draft show. I said, go get me someone who is going to hit at pick 9. If you want to take a swing on the quarterback at 40 or at 71 or whatever it was, I said, I'm fine with taking a chance there. I'm fine with the lottery ticket.
Yeah.
But pick number 9 absolutely has to hit.
I
So,
think
and under that respect, pick 40 is a lottery ticket.
if you're
No
looking
one
at
is
it,
no, hold on. If the odds tell you, the history tells you, Shough isn't going to be the guy. That's what history
there's
tells
a
you.
better chance of
Because
him
more
not.
often than not,
Then yeah,
way better chance of him not being the guy.
correct. I agree with
If
that.
he is the guy, you just hit a grand slam. You just hit you have the winning lottery ticket. If he
Yes.
misses, big fucking deal. Yes, you used the 40th pick, but at the same point, you took a chance. You missed. No harm, no foul. You didn't trade any future capital to go up and get him. You literally stood pat at pick 40 and selected.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
so you miss, go pick with the top pick, because if he's bad, the team's going to be awful.
it pushes the reset or extends the reset another year. But I think
Yeah, but this reset's going to be a 2 or 3 year deal.
and I think that's the thing. It's like if you're looking at it from, I think you can look at it as you want to win as soon as possible. Period. Full stop. Point blank. Then any negativity would be a hurt. But if you're looking at it from the standpoint of, okay, this reset word, this R word, and like rebuild, reset, whatever, like this is a 3 to 4 year process anyway. Then losing,
I think it's a 2 to 3 year
or 2 to 3. So if you're looking at it from that perspective, like this is what it is anyway, then yeah, I get it. Like Shough sucking this first season and having to draft somebody else the next season doesn't alter the 2 to 3 year. Probably pushes it further into the 3 than the 2, yes. but I can see
you just summed up what I was thinking. Right?
Yeah, there. I can see it from that.
Think about it. Like Carr, we knew Carr wasn't the answer. Like if Carr is the starting quarterback in 2025, this team might win 8 or 9 games. Just with the way the entire structure of the team looks. You know, the aging veterans on defense, the new defense. This team is devoid of talent in a lot of areas. Carr and his team in 2026, I would not bet on this team making any turnaround. So to me, we had to get a new quarterback in the building. We have a couple of candidates. You know, let's just go ahead and, for argument's sake, say that Shough's going to be the guy. If Shough shows us Drake May potential this year, you just hit a grand slam.
Yeah.
If Shough rolls in and looks like Rattler did last year, hey, guess what? We probably got a top 5 pick. The rebuild was always going to be a 2 to 3 year thing. The cap does not get impacted at all if Shough sucks. Literally, that dude's contract is nothing. You can cut him, no harm, no foul if he sucks, just like you can cut Rattler and Haener. So if the quarterback, whoever the quarterback is, if they are just god awful this year, if they look like Rattler and Haener did last year, this team probably has a top 5 pick. So with a top 5 pick, which we haven't had since the Reggie Bush year, we have only spent one first round pick on a quarterback in our history, Archie Manning, damn near 50 years ago.
If every Saints fan doesn't have that memorized now, they should.
Yeah. So if we get a top 5 pick, in 2026, more than likely something went horribly wrong with whoever the starting quarterback is, and we will be having a new starting quarterback in 2026 that comes with that top 5 pick. So no harm, no foul, no long-term implications on the salary cap. We didn't trade any future assets to get him. It is literally a lottery ticket. It's a scratch off. If it hits, holy shit, we are just rolling. If it misses, okay, we probably got a top 5 pick. Now let's go get one of the can't miss guys.
Yeah.
I wish Arch were a redshirt senior, because then it could be like, hey, you know, the March for Arch is here. But the reality is that dude ain't coming out in 2026.
Yeah. I'm waiting closer to your end of the spectrum on him not coming out. I think he comes out the following year, but
I think
you think he waits 2 more years.
I think he exhausts his eligibility, man. I really do. I think 2028.
I don't think he goes that far.
I'll say 50-50 for 2027. I think 0% for 2026.
Yeah,
and then I think about 25% for 2028.
Yeah, I'm less than you on that. But the point is, you know, it's a possibility. I'll finish up our thoughts. You know, we could get into the rest of rookie minicamp, but I think we got on here to talk about Carr in the future and that stuff.
Thank God.
We'll talk more about what the rookies look like when we see them more, because we still got OTAs or minicamp coming up in June. But before we wrap, I'll say this on if it is Shough. Okay, now that we know there's no chance of Carr pulling a fast one and saying, just kidding, my shoulder's fine. I'm going to come in and be the quarterback now. Now that we know it's going to be Rattler or Shough, if Shough wins the job, what's your like baseline, like your benchmark that he has to get over in order for the Saints to not have to go QB the next year, not have to use a top 5 pick on a QB? Like, is it in terms of wins? Like, are we talking 8-9 wins from Shough and then you'll feel like, okay, we don't have to go get a QB? Or is it a higher win total? Or are you looking more to like performance? I mean, because I'm thinking of a world where we get 6 wins, but like it's not all on him. You know, like say the defense is atrocious and he doesn't throw that many picks, doesn't get sacked a lot. We just don't move it on offense because we can't block, and we only get 6, but he looks good. Like, do you go after a quarterback there? Just wondering if you have a magic number.
No, I don't have a magic number, but I'm looking right now at Drake May's stats from his rookie year. So he started 12 games. He had a 3-9 record. He 66.6% completion percentage, 15 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Those were not great numbers. He also
for a rookie, though.
Well, he also had 421 yards rushing, which is pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And 2 more touchdowns. Now, here's the thing. He showed flashes all throughout those 12 starts. We didn't see any flashes out of Rattler or Haener. I think Rattler had that one throw where it was like off one, whatever the hell. I don't even remember what it was. That's the closest thing.
I think the cleats. I think the cleats from that are already in Canton. What are you talking about? Like one throw? That was.
Yeah. Well, that's the only flash that anybody can even reasonably point to. And
I think
and that's
the fourth quarter of the Redskins game was a pretty good. You know, drove that final drive to tie the game up. That was pretty good.
Okay, he went 0-6. He didn't win a game.
Oh, I know, but you've talked about flashes.
My point is, there were not many flashes.
Okay.
Like, we're being generous if we're going to count more than like 5. Michael Penix showed more flashes in his 3 starts than Rattler did in his 6 starts.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
So Drake May, there's plenty of plays he made where you were like, wow, you know, this guy's got the talent. You can see it.
Yeah.
So
you can also see how bad the team was around him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, I think our defense has a chance to be really bad this year. The offense, you know, we still don't have a big wide receiver. You know, we all feel the same way about Juwan Johnson. I need to see a positive touchdown to interception ratio.
Yeah.
Would love to see it at 2-1. And, you know, a completion percentage somewhere between 65 and 70. Like, and just, I need those baseline stats, and I need you to show me flashes. Like, I want to see some of these throws like I saw on Underhill's Twitter account where he's rolling to his left, throws across his body, and hits a strike. You know, he did it in college a couple of times. Like, I need to see that.
Ideally, a low sack number taken too.
Yes, don't be the Rattler like 80% sack rate that he had.
I got to think that Amazon Web Services has this figure, but I would also look to see like the ratio of time elapsed before the sack. You know, like if you've been sacked 20 times in a season, and the average time it took for you to go down was like 2 seconds, then you have a shit offensive line. But if your average there is like 4, that means you're holding on to the ball, you're running around behind the line. I'd like to see that. But
we'll be able to see it too. You know what I mean? Like you can see when someone is.
Oh, the eye test will be in like more full of a swing than it's ever been.
So I'm going to use a play that you have referenced multiple times since the draft. So there's the play where Jalen Walker gets a sack on Kelvin Banks. And it's because Quinn Ewers held the ball for damn near 5 seconds.
And he dropped back like 12 yards.
Right. So if we're seeing Shough take sacks like that, and that's straight from the Rattler playbook, that's not good.
Yeah.
Now,
or like if he freak out if like he thinks he's being pressured, but he's not. Saw that with Carr a few times and with Rattler maybe. Yeah. But like, you know, don't throw it away when you don't have to throw it away. Stand in there. Rattler, to his credit, will stand in there and he'll take a beating. Like, I'll give him that. To me, he that's the one thing that he has Shough beat on right now is the fact that he is not scared. He'll stand in the pocket and he'll wait to the last second, take a hit right in the chin,
and then throw the ball.
Yeah, he made some great.
Shough needs to. If we could just blend the two of them together and kind of find that happy medium,
Yeah,
we'd probably be in a great spot. But
yeah,
I'll sum it up and just say positive 2-to-1 touchdown interception ratio, completion percentage above 65%, and just show multiple flashes. Like just show us, be in position to, if you're in position to take the lead with 2 minutes left and you drive the team down the field and you get that score, I'm not going to hold it against you if the defense gives up a touchdown with, 20 seconds left, like used to happen to Breeze all the time.
Or if the Eagles game happens.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So just show these flashes, 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, 65% completion percentage. At that point, I'm probably in, and I would say, you know what, if we had a top 5 pick, I'd be like, look, trade it for a ransom.
Yeah. That makes sense.
But again,
he's
got to beat out Rattler and Hainer first. So
no win number specifically.
No, I'm not. Yeah. This team's not good enough. The talent's not there. The defense looks bad right now. Although I just looked and saw on Twitter that Asante Samuel apparently visited the Saints today. Asante Samuel Jr. So
breaking news.
Looks like he just had neck surgery. I think it was
Samuel.
And, yeah, it says he had neck surgery in April. Has a checkup in early July, at which point he will reconvene with several interested teams. So nothing looks like it's going to happen in July. But back to what I was saying, this team, the talent-wise, it's not a very talented team. There's a lot of old guys on defense. I think the defense is going to be pretty bad this year.
And a completely new system. It's just there's a lot of risk for missed assignments and I mean if you're already out of position and you're not particularly fast, it's not a good recipe.
Yeah. But I'll say this, man, if Shough hits, we are golden.
Yeah.
Because the cap nerds are they're about to be crying into their pillows at night because the Saints just outran Cap Hell. With Carr, with this whole situation with Carr retiring, the Saints they're fine.
Yeah. 2027,
wide open, can sign anybody they want to. 2026, with minimal moves, they're in the black. So Cap Hell's over. R.I.P. Cap Hell.
You're setting that down, throwing down that gauntlet, huh?
I'm going to tweet it out soon. It's going to say R.I.P. Cap Hell, #Saints.
I hope you're right. Hope it doesn't come back from the dead.
No, man. I mean, look, we don't have anybody that's due a big contract. Who are you going to pay a big contract to next year?
Chase Young's pretty big, right? Next year?
Chase Young's like he's already signed. They already signed him.
Yeah, but for like
3-year deal.
Yeah, but
you're not re-signing him next year.
No, there's a big cap hit for next year.
Not really.
I mean, it's definitely a hell of a lot better than we've been in years past. I mean,
they outran Cap Hell.
The fact that your $150 million QB is off the books next year is huge. So
the reality is we outran Cap Hell.
Yeah.
You can always outrun. I'm going to use the Bengals as an example. You're seeing how they won't even do the waivers for the rookies for minicamp because they're such a cheap organization.
Yep.
Gail Benson, for all her faults, which she has many, she has never been afraid to sign a check to outrun the cap.
Yeah.
And that's all it takes.
Yeah.
With the whole saying that the cap is a myth, it's only a myth if you have an owner that is willing to just keep writing the checks, signing the checks. We have that. The Bengals do not, which is why they haven't talked to Trey Hendrickson. The rookies aren't practicing right now. So the reality is, with the way our owner operates and the way our front office operates, we can outrun Cap Hell, and we just did. Yeah. And it took the assistance from Carr retiring, but Cap Hell's over with, buddy.
Yeah.
2027 is going to be.
Look, the cap is there, unlike Major League Baseball or whatever else you want to say to keep people on even footing. But the one area where there's flexibility, where teams can differentiate themselves, is the operation
ownership,
spending of cash. How do you use the cash? And so Gail, you're right. She's done that.
Yeah, look at the Raiders. The Raiders are always a cash poor team.
Yeah.
The Bengals are a cash cheap team.
Yeah.
The Saints, Gail doesn't give a fuck. She will sign whatever check. And look, that's her best trait.
Yeah.
She doesn't give a shit. She will sign whatever check she needs to sign, and that keeps this team able to operate with the way we do with the cap. So
yeah, hey, maybe
Cap Hell's done. R.I.P.
It's got to be great for business expenses when tax come around. Keeps your bottom line, really lowers that liability.
Yeah.
Maybe all the CPAs out there have
So,
something they can say about that. But yeah, but new era. The error is over. The new era begins. And but yeah, I'm hoping for the home run. But like you said, I guess I'll temper my disappointment if it doesn't work out. But yeah, it'll be.
look, I'm excited. I tweeted it the other day. This is the most excited I've been for the start of a football season since Breeze retired. And I
Yeah.
mean that wholeheartedly because I have zero expectations. I'm not expecting this team to make the playoffs. I literally am going to go to every single game and I'm going to watch it and just say, just show me flashes. I just want to see flashes. Just entertain me. If we lose, that's fine. Whatever. It's a young team. And next year, once all the old heads are off the team, dude, this is going to be a young roster.
You're basically going to be watching it like a scout. Kind of
like watching like a preseason game.
It's
like a preseason game.
But you don't go to preseason.
And look,
but you don't go to those games.
No, I watch them, but I will be at every regular season game, and I will not get angry this year. I will not. It's going to be great.
You switch your name from Dar Saint to Dar Scout. You have to put a visor on with headphones, and you need to get you a Sith clipboard or something.
I just am happy that finally I will be able to watch Saints football and not be burdened with the expectations of Super Bowl. It is literally this is really the first real step in a rebuild. And so it is just going to be fun. It's like my fantasy team, dude. I love rebuilding. It's just going to be a fun exercise to watch this team with the young guys and just see if they can do it.
Yeah, I mean, we hate to lose, but it won't feel like the losses won't. I hope they won't hurt as much if you're not expected to win the division in the first place.
I'm fine with losing if you're building towards the future. You know what I mean? I'm fine with taking one step back to take two steps forward.
Yeah.
And that's what this season, best case scenario, if we do have we probably will have a losing record. If we can look at it and say, no, look, we saw enough flashes that it's one step back for two steps forward in 2026. Yeah. That's all you can hope for.
I mean, now that the car thing's all settled and we kind of know what we know that it's going to be a competition in air quotes with the three QBs plus Decker. I'm almost looking more my focus is shifting towards the defense. I really want to see what's that going to look like. So, and maybe because we don't know who fits where. So that's what I'm most looking into. Not that OTAs are going to tell us everything about who's lining up where, but at least be a good starter indicator in terms of what Staley's thinking. And then we'll see more in training camp. But in terms of what we can look forward to for next episodes, I think it'll be around that time. And I'm sure we'll have an episode before OTAs, but before we know it here, that'll be our next topics that we get into. And who knows?
Oh yeah.
Like you said, brought in Asante Samuel. Maybe we'll have a couple signings to talk about between now and then, but it is nice to say that after we sign off here, we'll have no reason really to talk about Derek Carr anymore.
Thank God.
We can move on.
This is where if I could insert the Ari Gold entourage gif of him writing on the dry erase board, "Get the fuck out." This is where we would insert it right here.
Yeah. Well, if you told me, maybe I could have queued it up on my screen if I knew. But yeah.
Well, we still got time before you post it, so I'll send it to you.
When tweet it out, we can send the GIF. But that's on to the next man up.
On to the next. Onward and upward.
That's right. So with that, we're going to wrap up this episode of 28-3 podcast. And as we go further into this offseason, we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll come up with some off-topic episodes. OTA's coming up here soon. But yeah, as we sign off, that is it. The Carr error, as Max would like to say, is over. We are moving on. Until next time, thanks for listening to the 28-3 podcast.
Who dat?
What a comeback!